All right, so the next thing is we want to talk about is just some of the issues you're going to face once you get it. So you've made a decision, I want to do it. You've got the financing in place now, and you've got the money to do it. So what are some of the things you're going to have to worry about? And so what we talk about is this. I've put together what is the concept of the 3D printing process, the additive manufacturing process. And you've got a variety of tools. We've heard this term intellectual property. What is intellectual property? It's patents, it's copyrights, it's trademarks, it's trade secrets, it's trade dress. What is each item? Trade dress, think of it as your VW bug. It's what the packaging looks like. It's a Coca-Cola bottle. That's called trade dress. Patents are something where you protect a process, a way you manufacture the actual finished item. What's another copyright? Copyright is like the words and the stuff that you write. Trademark is like a slogan or a logo. And a trade secret is something you just keep secret, something that's valuable, protected, and safeguarded. So here what we have is if you have the printing materials, I mean, what can you do with that? What you can do there is you can patent it. You can keep it as a trade secret. Those are all the actual, like we're talking about, the 160 items, and right now most of them are patented, so if you got to use it, you're paying something for it. The supporting materials are two types of things. You heard Kelly talk about when you put the layers on, there's a binder that goes between many of these layers. That's the supporting material. Or if you build something that goes reverse style, and you got to have something supporting that part, and some of them are biodegradable. Those are also supporting materials. You can protect those via patent, you protect those via trade secret also. The 3D model file, as Kelly was telling you, somebody's scanning it and taking the picture. That's computer stuff. Well, you protect that via copyright, something along that line. The 3D printer itself, there's a variety of things. You can do the whole box, the whole machine itself, or you can do the components of it. Or you can say, if some people want to just do what's called a trade secret, let's say the particular way they treat or heat the material, then what they'll do is say, I'm just going to keep that secret because I don't want everybody else to know about. And then the last thing is the printed article itself, and everything applies to that. It can be a patent. It can be a trademark because of the way, like the color of it, for example. We all know about the Pink Panther and Owens. Was it Owens Corning or somebody with the pink color? You can protect a particular color. No sound. I mean, people have tried sound. Harley Davidson tried to do the sound of its motorcycle, potato, potato, potato. And then what you have is like statues. So statues are copyrights. You can trademark. I mean, you can copyright those. So the way this looks. So there's a variety of different things you can protect. And the question is, why would you even want to do it? Well, as Kelly said, if it's reverse engineered, I mean, this stuff can be done fast. Now, if you've got it patented, that's a way to protect it. Somebody's going to be able to reverse engineer it. Asset development. One of the biggest things that we see right now in the asset acquisition department is, what's your value? And do you have a proprietary line of products? And if you have a proprietary line of products that's a patented item, all of a sudden the value of the company raises a little higher. And attracting investment goes hand in hand. What's the other thing about marketing? In marketing, if you patent something, all of a sudden you're looked at as innovative. We've got this proprietary line. People think that we're very, very special in what we do and creative. And discourages competition from the perspective of, if they know that you are and have a particular product protected, they're less likely to try and go and compete against you. Why not? It's freaking expensive, all right? And that's as much as, I'd love to tell you, do it. I'm a practical guy also, and sometimes it's not only expensive from the legal side, it is expensive from the management side and all your engineers, because people got to work down, they got to put all these disclosures down and everything. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort from their perspective. The other thing is, people don't always recognize it. Great, I've got a patent, I'm going to hang it on my wall, but what are you doing? You're teaching everybody how to do it. And so all of a sudden, if I spell out 10 steps of how to make this 3D printed part, I know your 10 steps, and all I got to look is, I can change step number 8 and make it a little bit better, and all of a sudden I've got an advantage over you. You've taught me. So that's a difficulty that you face there too. And the last one is difficulty in enforcement. People think, again, I got that piece of paper, it says I got my patented product, I hang it on the wall. Problem is, you may not be able to enforce it in a foreign country. The big battle right now exactly in enforcement is because the court decisions haven't held up. Who exactly are you going to sue? Now, the law says that you sue the maker, seller, or user of the item. Well, if I'm the one that's doing the CAD file in China, I'm making a digital file. I'm not making the product. I'm not using the product. and I'm not designing it. I just made a copy of it. So from that perspective, the courts really haven't hit on who can you enforce against it. So there's a big gap. So again, the difficulty enforcement. So if you do decide to do it, though, I'd say you just layer everything. I mean, don't just pick one of them. Go for all of them. Either you do the whole concept. Remember we told you before, the pictures before, you would go and do all this, try and protect all of them so you have no penetration points. Or what you would do is you could do specific components, just this item here. And this is a patent number, that's a trademark designation, that's a copyright designation, that's a design patent. So either do it system level or do it on the parts. Now, we say what you do. It's expensive. Are there other ways you can do it? Sure, there's a great bunch of methods that you can do. You can innovate and rather than protect. Do what Tesla does. Tesla lets anybody use their patents. Elon Musk has made a decision that says, you know what, I'm going to get a patent, but I'm not going to sue you for it. But I'm going to be so far ahead of you on innovation. He's taken all that dollars of enforcing it and putting it instead on just trying to out-innovate you. Fashion industry has done this for years. They never sue anybody. You know what they do is they just go into the next design because if you've got last year's model, you're not considered so hip. So from that perspective, you can out-innovate people. The only problem is you can out-innovate them so much that the technology hasn't caught up, the platform. So let's say you have a part, and we have a client that does this right now. They have a part that fits into a square. Well, they've come up and said, you know, the curve is going to be better and greater and a better advantage. Well, the problem is if they've got 5,000 machines out there, the manufacturer of the square part isn't going to say, hey, I'm going to change the machine just to make your curved part. So in that perspective, you may want to do some kind of intellectual property just to maximize a bit of the profit. But I'm telling you, I mean, this is, you know, Elon Musk is a bright guy, and he just said, I'm taking the money elsewhere. And the IP agreement, what I mean that is like the contract, the good old contract still. What is great about it? It's fast, relatively cheap, flexible. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. And the interesting thing is there's a big battle on who owns it. Right now what you see is on the 3D printed part, nobody really says is the person who conceptualizes it, the one who actually does the design, that's an owner. Is it the person who makes the CAD file, the one that's going out there and creating it in the software? That truly is an owner. And then the other one is the person who operates the 3D printer. Not somebody that just pushes button, but somebody that goes in there and says, hey, I'm going to change the way this heat parameter we apply. Or maybe we'll process it a little bit longer. That guy contributed to the design also. And so from that perspective, when you go to the IP agreement, you define who the owners are. And that's important because as the owner, you get to decide how much money I'm getting. All one about money, as Kelly said. And the other thing is, you want to be able to say who's going to use it. As the designer, do I want the person at the 3D machine going down and selling it to a bunch of people, maybe in Alabama? Maybe I don't. But you want to be able to have that contract so you can decide who is all going to protect. I mean, what's all going to be protected. And you have other things you can put in the agreement, restrictive covenant, restrictive, that's always, I hate legal terms. A non-compete, you know, prevent people from competing, other restrictions, and just define what you want to do with respect to each other. And the royalty arrangement. Digital rights management is a big hot thing now too. We were talking over here about what the old printer companies used to do. Remember, you would get your printer and then you would try to find a replacement cartridge and it wouldn't fit. It couldn't do it because they wouldn't communicate. Well, that's the same thing people are going to do now in the 3D printing world. They're encrypting those designs. Or if I want to buy a part or make a part and I pay for the design from a 3D CAD designer, what they'll do is that they'll either stream it live so you only get it once, or what they'll do is only a certain amount of prints because they want to prevent the situation where somebody sells it to another entity and then they got a website. Next thing you know, they're selling 100 copies of your design, that kind of thing. So digital rights management is a big hot area. And the thing that's neat about it is there is a federal law that lets you just go ahead and write a letter to the website and the website's got to take it down. And if they don't, there's money that you can get. So it's a faster process to try and prevent some of the counterfeiting. What are legacy techniques? Make a cheap product. I mean, when I say don't charge much money for it. And with iTunes, 99 cents. Nobody's ever going to try and compete against them because the price point is crazy on that. You just can't. What's another technique? Build functionality into your 3D printed part. The car that Kelly was talking about, they could not make the wiring and they could not make the mechanical components. They had to buy those and put it in. So if you make a 3D printed part, distinguish yourselves by saying, I'm going to put some functionality into it. What's another one? Glass. Still can't print glass. And it's, you'll get like opaque stuff, but it's not clear. So pick a material that you make your product out of that they can't get yet. Remember, it's only 160. You can pick some materials out there that nobody will ever be able to make, so that'll give you a great advantage. Create a consortium. Everybody goes in a bar, right? You go in, well, not everybody, but let's see. I'll presume all of you have gone into a bar. So you go in a bar, you hear the music playing. A lot of these bars don't pay for that music. Well, what happens is it's impossible. Let's say I'll date myself. Let's say I'm Van Halen, and so I want to go into the bar and I want to collect because they're playing one of my songs. Well, it doesn't make sense to have Eddie Van Halen walk around the country and trying to collect money from everybody. So what they do, they built a consortium. So they go to these bars. If they hear their music and they're not paying for it, they get a royalty from that perspective. So what you do with these people that, like Kelly says, the people that are stealing the designs and using them from parts, what you can do is create, and we'll see this more in the future now, these consortiums that you pay a fee for and then they collect your royalties. Broadcasting your rights. Just tell everybody you've got protected stuff. Tell them if you've got a patent. Tell them that you're copyrighted. Tell them in letters and ads that what you're doing is protected, and people are going to be a little bit less reluctant to copy just willingly because you are managing expectations. This stuff is really exciting. It's Anti-Counterfeit Technology. They have DNA markers now where what they'll do is on a product, you can put a botanically enhanced marker on it so they can tell if it's stolen from you. Another thing that the people are starting to do in polymers, so you'll buy a polymer for the 3D printed part, it'll start making the part, and then when you heat it to the finished part, Viking Plastics comes out of the plastic. So all of a sudden the part that you're making has the person you stole it from, their name come up. Very, very cool. And they also have these crystals now, color crystals. They call them phantom dots or proton dots or something like that. That also, all these markers, those are ways that you can protect yourself without having to rely upon all this intellectual property. So from the perspective of the 3D printing part, should you protect your stuff? I mean, do you have to do it through patents? Yeah, you can. Do you have to? No, you don't. Should you do something? Hell, yes. You know, you got to do something, either if it's the self-measures or if it's just the more formalized intellectual property. You put time and effort. This stuff costs money, either as Joe said, through your own investment. Actually, Kelly said through his own investment, or as Joe indicated, through the time and effort you're putting into it. Do something to protect it. A lot of times it's just the contract itself, which is the best mechanism to do it. All right, so I'm from our Cleveland office. I'm going to now give Mike to talk about litigation insurance issues. Mike is from our Chicago office.